I'm saying this because I know master yoga teachers who make the suggestion to nutate the sacrum when you run out of hip range of motion. Don't do that. That's not a good strategy, guys. You know, like, you have to think about how much range of motion do you actually need. Like, let's get real. Hey guys, Denise here, and this is Ask Denise. Today we're looking at SI joint instability. Now, I get asked about SI joint instability. Honestly, I wish I had a dime for every time. It's been many times, and I've made 2 other SI joint instability Ask Denise videos a while ago, so you can look for those if you want, because there's many different reasons why the SI joint would become unstable, actually. So today I'm going to look at a particular reason why that can happen, and I think this one happens quite a bit. So I think it is kind of one of the roots. So the thing about the SI joint is it's actually supposed to be a pretty stable joint. This is what it looks like from the back. See the joint between your big pelvic bone and your spine. So if you have a look at that, this is basically where the upper body and the lower body are connected. It's kind of crazy to think. Here's what it looks like in the front. Looks like that. So, this is a joint that's kind of shaped like not quite an oval, but about half of the surface of that joint is fibrocartilage, very, very fibrous, and the other half is synovial. So that means we have a little bit of movement, but overall, compared to something like the shoulder or the hip, it's not a freely movable joint. It's supposed to be pretty stable. It gets into trouble in yoga when we ask it to move. And we do that when we run out of hip range of motion. So, in postures like the splits, or in postures like pigeon pose, postures like full lotus pose, especially when you forward fold in a full lotus pose, and then postures where you're like Ekapada Sirsasana, you're actually trying to put your leg behind your head. So these are asking for a great deal of external rotation at the hip and flexion. And if you were standing up and you put your hip joint in a similar position, it's like this leg would be turned around backwards. That's about what it translates to. So it really is asking the joint for a lot more than it's naturally going to ever use. We would never use that in real life, just so you're aware. Okay, so I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm just saying, that's what's happening. So what does it feel like? It feels like, how would you know that you have SI joint instability, say? Because what it feels like is it's gonna slip out or something. You ever have that feeling like your whole body will tense up and you just feel like, uh-oh, something's not stable. That's what instability feels like. Usually there's pain symptoms with it. So it feels painful, it could be dull and achy, or it could be sharp. I want you to notice something else about the SI joint. This is where your sciatic nerve emerges. Pretend my finger is the sciatic nerve. You see how this is the SI joint, and here's my sciatic nerve. If this kind of gets rotated out of position, it could impinge my sciatic nerve a little bit. So you could have burning, numbness, pain, tingling down the buttocks and the back of the leg too. So if that's happening, then you know that instability is really having other consequences as well. Okay, so what we're doing when we ask the SI joint to move is we're robbing Peter to pay Paul. So when your hip runs out of range of motion, you're at the end. Don't go asking. Now, I'm saying this because I know master yoga teachers who make the suggestion to nutate the sacrum when you run out of hip range of motion. Don't do that. That's not a good strategy, guys. You have to think about how much range of motion do you actually need. Like, let's get real. Okay, so you can have, this is often one side will be affected and the other side not. And we all know that, right? We tend to have like more range on one side than the other. Maybe one hip has just a little tiny bit more range than the other one. And so, it's not surprising that one side would be more affected than the other. Okay, so don't be surprised by that. And so we need to think about a couple of things, like how much range of motion do you actually need? And can I work with range of control and make that my priority instead of always leveraging my joints to squeeze out that last millimeter that I think I need to achieve full spiritual enlightenment? Okay, so my strategy for preventing these kinds of problems and actually trying to recover stability when you've lost stability is, of course, organization and activation. So I've talked about that a million times. I talk about it in all the videos. That's when you setting up with your feet in that neutral position. You're dialing the energy outwards, so you're activating the lateral and spiral lines through the legs. It's going to come through the buttocks, connecting to the back of the pelvis and the superficial back line, as well as the spiral lines. So you need to activate your fascia with muscle contraction. That's what I'm saying, basically. And if you do that, and you carry that throughout the practice, like in things like pigeon pose, I just do not do a passive pigeon pose. My pigeon pose is this active posture where I'm developing my range of control. So I know I have strength here. I'm not trying to melt into that posture and eventually run out of hip range of motion and start asking my SI joint for range of motion. Is this making sense? And, you know, I have to think about, like, I've had teachers say, oh, you're almost there with the whole leg behind the head thing. And I'm just like, I will never use that in my real life. I can't see me doing that, waiting in line, or I can't see me doing that. So I don't think I'm gonna try for it. Other ways now, if you have this instability, we can regain stability, but we have to do it with muscle contraction, okay? Very simple way to do that is with little bridge pose and variations on little bridge pose. So say little bridge pose here. You see I'm contracting my glutes, and with little bridge pose, you can do things like push your feet forward and pull your heels in. So forward and pulling in, just changing the direction of the muscle activation. This is a good way. Practicing inverted table. So again, pushing down through the legs, strengthening my back line. I can also do Konasana, do it with one or both legs straight, strengthening that back line, activating the muscles that will help me. I actually need to recompress my SI joints. So my muscles will help me do that. And then other poses like Unbound Bow. So on the tummy, doing a posture like bow pose without actually binding. So no bind. I'm just going to be super active and press my feet to the sky. And then simpler for more beginner. But you know what? This is not usually a beginner problem. It's an experienced yogi problem. Experienced yogis have done so many forward folds and splits and wide leg folds and pigeon poses that they eventually destabilize their SI joint. So the only way to regain stability is through effort, through muscle contraction, and through organizing and activating consistently through your practice. You can do it though. I know you can do it. Okay, so again, something that's very prevalent in our practice, and it comes from that ideology of more range of motion is better, and that we should be always trying for more and more range of motion to the detriment of the stability of our body, the detriment of a very, very important joint, the SI joint. Okay, guys, so I want to encourage you, organize and activate, keep your muscles strong, keep your joints strong and stable, and thanks so much for joining me, guys. Comment below, question, and I'll be happy to help you out if I can. See you next time, guys. Bye for now.